What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show today. It is Monday, February 1st, 2021 here, the start of a brand new week, start of a brand new month. And we have got a lot to talk about today. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news. Then we will be opening up the phone lines for your comments, questions, and observations. Here in Indiana, it's rather cold. We had another dusting of global warming powder over the weekend, which is still out there. And so definitely a little bit of winter out there. This storm, though, has really hit a lot of places much harder up north here, 2 feet of snow. And so if you're in those areas, you know, use the appropriate care and caution when you're out there driving. Anyway, not apparently last week, Donald Trump's legal team for his impeachment defense quit. I'm not sure why. Or if there was coercive means applied to them. I sort of presume there would be a signed contract that they would be in breach of to simply walk away here. But apparently yesterday, Trump named 2 new attorneys that will lead his impeachment defense. And apparently one of them is David Schoen, an attorney from Alabama, and the other is Bruce Castor Jr., a former prosecutor from Pennsylvania. And apparently this is after the group of attorneys from South Carolina are no longer participating in the defense. So something's going on in the back there. I don't know what, but something is. Okay, apparently Mike Pence is starting to drop hints that he may run for the White House in 2024, this after betraying Trump and the voters in America. And I'm a little ticked off, not because Mike Pence, you know, who's a fellow Hoosier, he's back here in Indiana already, you know, wants to run for the White House. We haven't even gotten out of the mess of the 2020 election, and already they're campaigning. Don't we deserve a rest? Can we have like a year maybe where we don't have all of these, you know, politicians screaming and clamoring for our votes and setting up the election fraud? I don't know about you. I need a vacation from all of this nonsense. I really, really do. And but it's almost like, you know, the campaign has become a permanent state of being. Other countries, there are legal limits. The campaigns can only start so many months before the election and have to stop so many days before the election. And that's basically it. The rest of the time, people go out on picnics and have fun, and, you know, they don't have to deal with all of this nonsense. But here, it's just endless campaigning. All righty, now over at Judicial Watch, they have filed a petition for a writ of certiorari, which means a cert petition, within the U.S. Supreme Court, asking it to take up its challenge to an appeals court order exempting Hillary Clinton from testifying under oath about her emails. And Judicial Watch is saying the Supreme Court should hear its case because the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia erred in giving Clinton unwarranted special treatment that conflicts both with the Supreme Court precedent and the precedents of other courts of appeals, including its own. Gee, Hillary Clinton getting special treatment. Imagine my shock. I'm stunned. I can't tell you how surprised I am here. All righty. This comes under the category of how do people like this get into positions of power, or is it the positions of power that warp them? Now, we've all heard about the Lincoln Project. This is this anti-Trump organization, and apparently it was co-founded by a guy named John Weaver, who turns out to just be icky. He's apparently an accused pedophile. He owns a Confederate flag cooler. I actually don't have a problem with that one here. And apparently, John Weaver led a secret life that was built on a foundation of deception at every level. I mean, the Lincoln Project is kicking him out. He's a predator, a liar, and an abuser. We extend our deepest sympathies to those who were targeted. Apparently, he was hitting on 21 young men while serving in his official position. So I don't know, was he that way to start out? Or is there something about being in positions of power that slowly warps your brain? So anyway, there is a new video out from Project Veritas in which Mark Zuckerberg trashes Trump and promises that he will work with Joe Biden to keep all of us sheep in line here. Another little Project Veritas video. Basically, the Zuckerberg and Facebook are admitting Facebook really does have too much power, which we kind of already knew. Interestingly enough, we're now starting to see some infighting within the corporate media itself. For a while there, especially last year, it was all of corporate media against the independent media. Now they're starting to turn on each other. The big tech social media, which is corporate, is now being targeted by the legacy news outlets, ABC, CNN, NBC, and so forth and so on. And apparently a media company that operates several newspapers is accusing Google and Facebook of threatening the abolition of local newspapers across the country by their alleged anti-competitive business practices. So they're taking each other into court. I think it's a really, really good thing. Article coming on out from newspunch.com. Apparently the CIA, otherwise known as the Cocaine Importation Agency, they're expanding their existing program that influences corporate media outlets and independent media outlets to promote fake propaganda stories by having agents troll their internet forums, the social media, the website comment sections in an effort to disrupt the independent media sites. This is an expansion of Operation Mockingbird, which goes back to the end of World War II. The agency is creating fake user accounts on internet forums and social media channels, arguing politics with real users in an attempt to stifle and subvert genuine communications between users, or at least wear them out so they're tired and give up and quit here. But according to Russia Today, some of these CIA agents have up to 10 fake shill accounts that they basically operate during the day, used to troll and create the illusion of having a genuine network of friends. And says, are you chatting with a CIA agent online? You probably already have, and that certainly explains some of the callers into this radio show who sound like such clueless morons. I think that's where they're coming from. All righty. Interesting little story. There was, during the January 6th protest in Washington, D.C., there was this French Bitcoin donor named Bachelier, Laurent Bachelier. He was a Bitcoin millionaire, and apparently he donated roughly $500,000 to the U.S. Capitol protesters. Now we're being told he reportedly committed suicide with a drug overdose. And I don't know. It just seems if you've got that kind of money that you're not in the mood to commit suicide. And so I am, to put it delicately, a little suspicious about what's going on over there. Another story coming out of Russia Today saying, you got conned. And boy, are they right about that. Democrats are already expressing their regret that, Biden turns out to have misled a little bit about the $2,000 checks. And Americans who voted for Biden, are expressing their regret at voting for him or volunteering for the Democrats after the Biden administration revealed it would not be giving out the $2,000 relief checks. You not only sold your vote, you didn't even get paid for it. You suckers. I mean, come on. You didn't know that was coming. Now, the Republican senators are trying to come to a compromise with the Biden administration for some form of COVID relief. And apparently, the original plan appeared to fade on Saturday. Sunday, they came on back saying, we're have an alternative plan. It's going to cost about $600 billion. They claim they have bipartisan support. Among the signatories are Senator Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, and Lisa Murkowski. Over in Massachusetts, we're talking about COVID-19 now. Over in Massachusetts, Representative Stephen F. Lynch has tested positive for COVID-19. No big deal, a lot of people testing positive. The problem here is he's had both shots of the Pfizer vaccine before Joe Biden's inauguration. Now, some of these people who came down with COVID after getting the vaccine, they said, oh, well, it takes a week, it takes 2 weeks. You know, no big deal. Here we are. And yeah, it's been a long time since the inauguration. He's had both shots. He's got COVID-19, or the test is showing that he's positive for COVID-19. This truly is a flustercluck, I can tell you, the way they've handled the tests and everything. Story coming on out of Zero Hedge, medical tyranny. The CDC has now announced all travelers must wear 2 masks, and if you don't, you are subject to arrest. The order goes into effect at midnight tonight. And apparently 2 masks must be worn while waiting, boarding, traveling, and disembarking. The coverings need to be at least 2 or more layers of breathable fabric, secured to the head with ties, ear loops, or elastic bands. Scarves and bandanas do not count. Over in Los Angeles, they are allowing bars and restaurants to reopen for outdoor dining starting this coming Friday, but there's a little bit of a hitch. They're not allowed to turn on their TVs, and as you know, we have the Super Bowl coming up, and a lot of people like to go to the bars and watch the Super Bowl and have a couple of beers, or 5 or 6 or 20 or 30 beers. And Los Angeles County has declared there will be no viewing TVs in the outdoor dining areas. And of course, the Super Bowl is coming up end of this week. Interestingly enough, Judicial Watch has uncovered documents behind a $1 billion with a B dollar mask deal between the state of California and a Chinese Communist Party linked company. If you're wondering why we're getting all this, wear 2 masks, wear 4 masks, wear 5 masks, wear 10 masks, it's because it's amping up the profits. They're making more money. You know, if you're wearing 2 masks, double the business there. And by the way, all of these masks, they're winding up going into the environment. They're not being treated like they're biologically contaminated materials for safe disposal. People just throw them in the trash bins. They get blown out on the street. Anyway, so Judicial Watch announced it's received 848 pages of documents revealing the contract materials and communications related to the billion-dollar contract for face masks between the California Office of Emergency Services and BYD, which is linked to the Communist Party. They've reportedly been barred by law from some federal contracts for providing faulty electric vehicles and lithium batteries to American buyers. So anyway, apparently, according to this article over in Zero Hedge, there are glitches showing up in the vaccine rollout. Shortages are showing up. The European Union is trying to get more doses. Things are getting very, very tense. And apparently somewhere in all of this mess, 20 million COVID-19 vaccine doses went missing. And the Biden administration doesn't know where they're currently located, if they're being properly refrigerated. So that's a sizable amount of the medication here. Last week, the Biden administration made a point of saying they were going to vaccinate the terror suspects down in Guantanamo ahead of other people. Needless to say, this caused a bit of an uproar, and the Biden administration has now quit that. This includes, of course, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who is the alleged mastermind of 9/11, you know, which he confessed to after his children were tortured. Over in Denmark, and the video from this was actually kind of impressive. Anti-lockdown protesters marched through Denmark's streets carrying torches, and it was staged overnight in Aarhus, the second largest city in Denmark. The march was organized by a group calling themselves the Men in Black, who opposed the country's enduring anti-coronavirus measures. There were a lot of people and a lot of flares and a lot of torches, and it was a very interesting video here. Turning to the international news, and we could certainly have seen this one coming, according to a new report citing senior NATO commanders, coalition forces will not be leaving Afghanistan by May, a deadline Donald Trump hoped to meet as president. And one NATO official told Reuters there will be no full withdrawal by allies by April end. So we're staying in Afghanistan. And of course, this doesn't even count the contractors, as it were. According to the source, conditions have not been met to justify a full-scale withdrawal, meaning the Afghans aren't doing what the U.S. government tells them to do. And under the new administration, there'll be tweaks in the policy. In other words, we're staying in Afghanistan here. Over in Iraq, one of their members of parliament is warning that the U.S. military's refusal to pull troops out of Iraq will be met with the nation's resistance. And basically, this is coming from Mohammed al-Baldawi, a member of Iraq Parliament's Security and Defense Committee, and saying the decision to remove foreign troops from Iraq is an Iraqi matter. If the Iraqi government's political solutions for the withdrawal of foreign forces do not succeed, we will then resort to resistance to attain the objective. In other words, Yankee, go home. Another story, we reported this about a week ago, but this is coming out of Press TV. The United States is being accused by political analyst Mark Taliano of plundering Syria's oil. And Taliano told Press TV the U.S. had never been invited, nor ever will be invited into Syria, and the military, American forces occupation, and killing of the men, women, and children in the country do constitute a war crime. Now, Taliano pointed out that U.S. forces were not guarding the oil. They are stealing the oil, looting, and plundering. Those two are war crimes. He said even the Al-Qaeda and Daesh were both creations of the U.S. government to push ahead with the imperialistic agenda. Of course, we already knew that. Over in Myanmar, they're in the middle of a coup. Leadership has been arrested. The military are in charge. They're promising early elections, but the United States government is promising to, quote, take action, end quote, if the coup is not immediately reversed and the president and MPs released from captivity. So we may be starting another war in Myanmar. All right, let's talk about the economy here. Wall Street is still reeling from this GameStop event, if you will. I think that's the best word for it. And they got caught off guard. These hedge funds got caught off guard. They lost $70 billion in these short squeezes. Some of these hedge funds have now gone out of business. Others had to go to some extreme lengths to try and cover the shorts. And of course, the corporate media is out there trying to say that these multi-billionaire hedge funds are the victim here. They're the good guys. And these amateur day traders out there, they don't know what they're doing. They're turning the stock market into a video game, and there really something needs to be done by. Well, remember that line from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? And he says, "How dare you use my spells against me?" That's exactly what happened. What the traders did, what these day traders did, is they played the same game in reverse the hedge funds used to get rich. Nothing illegal about that. We got to take a break for commercials. We will be right back. Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network is going to go on giving the American people good information, keeping them fully informed so that they can make good choices. And to continue doing that, we need your continued support. So the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3, and all of this information is at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. Okay, getting on back to the economic news and the squeeze here from last week. Apparently, Melvin Capital lost $7 billion last month, 53% of its capital. And, you know, they talk about all these hedge funds who lost all that money, but it didn't just disappear. It wound up going into the bank accounts, if you will, of those who were buying the GameStop stock because the stock went up and they could sell out. And there are rumors they're going to go after the paper silver market very soon. Apparently, Melvin's Gabe Plotkin was expanding his $44 million Miami beachfront mansion when his hedge fund exploded. And apparently, he paid $44 million for 2 adjacent homes. He's going to knock one down to make way for some tennis courts. Lifestyles of the rich and undeserving here. Apparently, the APMEX CEO was explaining why they halted silver bullion sales over the weekend. Right now, silver futures have soared 8%. It is above $29, and the Reddit hordes are pouring on in. That's the new name for it, the Reddit hordes. And so spot silver is back to its highest since the August-September cycle highs. Gold futures managed modest gains. And silver's dramatic outperformance has pushed the gold-silver ratio to its lowest since 2014. So silver is where the action is happening. Now, as I said before, the corporate media is out there trying to put the worst possible light on what happened with GameStop and these day traders, you know, that it's a bad thing here. Alistair McLeod is warning this is a real crisis in the winds. This could take the dollar down. And he said, you know, if you get a pop in the bubble, and there's no doubt equity prices are wildly overvalued compared to the economic outlook. So they're out there basically saying the economy is very, very, very fragile. Now, another article came on out from boardpanda.com talking about how billionaires rigged the stock trading platforms to basically screw over ordinary people like a gambling casino. And if you've studied anything about gambling casinos, you know that the games, the odds are slightly in the house's favor. You win occasionally. That's what keeps you playing until you hit gambler's ruin. But it's a psychological brainwashing, if you will, called intermittent reinforcement. And you can get addicted that way. And there are gambling addicts out there. They've treated the stock market trading platforms pretty much the same way. And it's designed to basically give the house a slight advantage. I mean, after all, if they were ever to change that game to 22, I would own that strip in Las Vegas. And now people are fighting back. So an article coming on out of Zero Hedge, how does this all end? And they're looking back at the times when the financial system really did screw over ordinary Americans. In 2000, they dumped companies with no earnings or revenue on unsuspecting individuals, eventually costing them their retirements. In 2008, it was outright mortgage fraud. From 2009 to the present, Wall Street has used algorithms, high-frequency trading, and user data purchases to front-run the little guy by scalping them for profits. Things that the little guy doesn't have access to. Interestingly, this past week, retail investors hit back. And just as individuals use social media platforms to organize protests and riots across the country, traders used websites like Reddit to organize a successful short squeeze on Wall Street hedge funds. And it certainly, definitely worked. And GameStop is now the poster child for the movement. All right, we're coming up here on another commercial break. Another story, this from Zero Hedge, talking about the stock market fatally wounded by the truth will stumble and crash because now everybody's paying attention. They're looking at the stock market and how it operates and why the little tiny day trader really doesn't make any money at it. In fact, the vast majority of people on these day trade platforms, they'll wind up losing money. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the economic news here. We're talking about GameStop. And I'm looking at this article that came out of Reddit.com, which is very much at the focus of what's been going on here, talking about the fact that what Reddit and Robinhood and GameStop did, it's not actually a new thing. There have been short squeezes before of large magnitude. What they're concerned about is that if it's repeated often enough, it could blow up the entire financial system, because the financial system is based on the money flowing from your pocket into their pocket. And if it starts going the other way, things get discombobulated here. Now, apparently over the weekend, Robinhood got an additional $2.4 billion capital bailout to keep because of all the trading activity. And there were a lot of people who were very concerned because Robinhood briefly stopped trading on some of these stocks. And they were saying, you know, whose side are you on here? Apparently, Reddit is reporting outages because the subgroup Wall Street Bets is just surging. People are getting on there. They're trying to get some inside information on what the next move is going to be, which is probably going to be silver, the paper silver market. But apparently it did swamp their servers twice in the past 24 hours. So they're struggling to deal with that. Now then, this gets back to something I was saying at the first part of the show. Why do people like this get positions of power and leadership? Apparently, the Biden administration is tapping Susie Levine to join the Labor Department as interim political head of the Employment and Training Administration. It's a very fluffy sounding title, and starting today, she will lead the federal subagency office that helps states manage unemployment benefits. Okay, here's the problem. Okay, this lady Levine lost $600 million in unemployment checks to a Nigerian fraud scheme. This happened last May. So not too careful there. Here's an observation. This is from the mostimportantnews.com, and it's talking about the Keystone Pipeline. And by now you've heard all the comments about the pipeline workers and the manufacturers and suppliers who are all basically out of work with the stroke of a pen. And so they're starting to say, you know, who benefited? Who's going to benefit from the cancellation of the pipeline? Because having invested that much money in that pipeline, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to pull the plug. Well, apparently without the pipeline, oil is going to have to be shipped by rail. It's a little more dangerous, a little more costly. Guess who owns the railroad that's going to be transporting all that oil? Warren Buffett, who donated $58 million to the Biden campaign. Okay, if the pipeline was completed, Buffett would lose billions in transportation fees. You see how the politics works here. Getting more into the economic news, over in London, there's a street called Oxford Street. It's their version of Rodeo Drive. And apparently 1/5 of the shops are now boarded up with no hope of recovery. more than 50,000 retail and hospitality jobs will be lost when the third lockdown ends, according to an industry group. Some 57 of 264 stores on the world-famous road are permanently shut, with revenue falling by more than 80% in the 12 months from March of last year, compared to the same time period the year before. Now, I've been there, so when I was there, a wonderful place. The New West End Company, a lobby group which represents hundreds of businesses in the area and provided the data, warned that the globally unique West End ecosystem is beginning to break down. Retailers have been hammered by 3 lockdowns, as well as Tier 4 restrictions, which hit London 1 week before Christmas. Story coming on out of Domagood. Democrats are pledging to push Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 rescue plan through Congress without Republican support, despite Biden's bid for unity. And apparently, the Republicans want to basically split it into smaller chunks for individual votes here. But apparently, they're queuing up to have another fist fight over this one. Over in China, President Xi Jinping is reading the Multilateral Riot Act on the virtual Davos agenda. Davos happened last week and was promoted by the World Economic Forum. They're saying this is not the Great Reset, at least not yet. The agenda is the aperitivo towards the Great Reset, apotheosis, at the World Economic Forum's special annual meeting, which will take place this coming spring in Singapore. The agenda's theme for 2021 is a crucial year to rebuild trust. Good luck on that one, because trust has to be earned. It cannot be demanded, right? Trust anyway in Davos speak must always lead toward what else? The Great Reset, introduced here in a TikTok-ready clip crammed with catchy slogans such as a new dashboard for the new economy, or the right people, right place, right time. And frankly, the jingoism is making me ill here. Apparently, the worst message of all is tune in, turn on, get involved, borrowing shamelessly from Timothy Leary. It obviously escaped the clip's producers that their public relations opus indirectly admits to rigged elections and blanket censorship on social media. Imagine our shock here. Over in Washington, D.C., officials have announced plans to erect a permanent security fence around the U.S. Capitol building the same week that the Democrats ended construction of the border security fence, because apparently they need the wall, but you don't. So Joe Biden signed this executive order basically saying walls don't work, they're immoral and racist. No, they're not, because illegal is not a race. But up in Washington, D.C., apparently they feel that security fences will work around the Capitol building. Little hypocrisy there. All right, we talked about this a little while ago. There is a House Resolution 127, the Sabika Sheikh Firearm Licensing and Registration Act. It's a gun grab, and you are not going to like this one. They're going to be charging $800 insurance every single year to own guns. It's supposed to be liability insurance in case there's an accident. In order to own guns, you must submit to a psychological evaluation once every 3 years, including 24 hours of gun safety tracing. I don't have training. I don't have a problem with that last one. I think everybody should be taught gun safety, even if they don't own a gun. You can't loan guns to anyone without explicit government permission. I'm actually kind of okay with that. 21-year-old minimum to own a gun. Well, when I was a kid, we got our first guns at age 12. No magazines above 11 rounds. I'm definitely opposed to that one. But yeah, grabbing your guns, or hamstringing them probably is a better word. And that $800 tax, they want only the rich to have guns, because the rich are very much afraid of the poor people. Over at the Rutherford Institute, they're warning that police are starting to carry out warrantless home invasions to confiscate guns. They're calling it part of the community caretaking duties. And they're saying that this grants them an exception to the Fourth and Second Amendment. And apparently this is going into some litigation, if you will, from the Rutherford Institute. Okay, and again, getting back to why do people like this get into positions of power? Over in New York City, there's a police officer was arrested last Thursday after posing as a 17-year-old on social media to solicit sexually explicit photos and videos from at least 46 minors. Okay, he got caught in a sting. And by the way, they are out there. You know, you can be on social media and you think you're talking to some 16, 17-year-old hottie. All right, getting into computers and stuff. Let's see where we are. Whoops. Send a message to our control room. Apparently, there is a malicious text message that can install a worm on your Android phone, and apparently it will be passed on to any friends who message you on WhatsApp. And you know, basically, it requests the user enables a variety of functions and permissions. These activate a hidden capability, which means when the phone receives a WhatsApp message, it will instantly reply with a link to a dodgy site. I really don't understand why the government is not spending more time dealing with these problems. It's clearly costing our infrastructure billions of dollars every year. It's clearly killing our productivity. And to me, it's a clear and present danger. And I don't understand, you know, why the government just seems to think it's not that big. Over at Apple, CEO Tim Cook is basically warning that we're allowing algorithms to control too much of societies. And he says we have to face the consequences of having algorithms push users toward more engagement at any cost. So Cook was speaking at the Computers, Privacy, and Data Protection Conference last Thursday. He said too many companies are asking what they can get away with rather than what happens if they follow through on boosting metrics. And yeah, it's a little crazy out there. It's like open season on you. At a moment of rampant disinformation and conspiracy theories juiced by algorithms, we can no longer turn a blind eye to a theory of technology that says all engagement is good engagement, the longer the better, and all with the goal of collecting as much data as possible. Boy, he sure hit that one right on the head. And, you know, your phones are listening to you, and I've mentioned this before, but the other day, Claire and I were out, and we were watching this guy in a truck just, you know, floor it and skid on the ice and everything. And said, well, I guess it doesn't matter if he wants to short block his engine. And Claire asked for clarification on what a short block was. And sure enough, I got online ads for powertrain equipment. So, yep, it's all out there listening for what you're interested in. And to feed you the right ads. And no, in point of fact, I'm not going to short block a car anytime soon here. All right, let's take some phone calls now. We're going to start with Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
I will never have that problem because I will never use a cell phone, ever.
Okay.
My data is not for sale.
Yep.
Ever, to anyone. Anyway, the wonderful world of money, power, and complete and utter nonsense. So, this stock trading, short selling.
Yep.
You know what? Short selling is kind of like leveraging gold, right? So you have an actual physical gold market, and then you have the paper market, which happens to be about 250 times.
Yes.
So, for every ounce of gold, there's 250 pieces of paper chasing that gold.
Yes.
Complete and utter BS. The silver market, which of course they're attacking now, right?
Yeah.
I think that's at 180 pieces of paper for every ounce of silver. And of course,
I wouldn't use the word attack. I wouldn't use the word attack. I mean, they're playing the game by the rules the investment companies and hedge funds set up.
Well, they're attacking the rich folk.
Well, okay, if that's
and
the way you want to put it. Yeah, and they're winning. That's the good thing.
Yeah, and winning. Right? It's that tiger blood. So, and then you have the silver market, right? But I think isn't it J.P. Morgan that does actually hold a bunch of silver, assuming they haven't rehypothecated it?
Yeah, J.P. Morgan and the New York Fed.
Yeah. And then now we get to the biggest crime on the face of the planet, which is central banking.
Yes.
The private for-profit Fed is now holding over $7.2 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
So what that boils down to is about $2 trillion of mortgage-backed securities.
Yes.
Still. About 4.6 or 4.7 of U.S. Treasuries that no one wants to buy.
True.
Right? So, and this is not something that's just exclusive to the Federal Reserve. This is happening all over the world in all the different countries that use central banking, whether it be private or public. The world is literally bankrupt.
Yes.
And, Mike, you know as well as I do that the people that actually control all of this will never allow it to happen. But if they do, they will somehow dump it on the public, which are the poor people like us.
Yes.
Like, this is a crime. And it's the magnitude of this is most people couldn't even wrap their heads around it. Mike, there are what? Like,
no, most people cannot comprehend how it works.
No, they can't. They don't realize that as soon as they issue $1, one single dollar at interest, you're a debt slave.
Yes.
You cannot pay it back.
That's true.
You can't. You can pay. As soon as they give you the buck, you can give them back the buck. Oh, where's the vig?
Yeah.
Where's the vig? Right? And that's literally how it works. That is exactly how it works. It's disgraceful.
Yes.
And you know what's worse is all this information is out there. It's all out in the open, and no one cares.
Well, I think they care. They just. All right. Well, thanks an awful lot. We got to take a break for commercials. We got other callers waiting on the line. Area code 512-248-8252. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Lauren in Ohio. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, I was just going to call and tell you, God knows I love you, but I don't care what you think about what's reasonable about gun control. That's why we have a Second Amendment.
True.
And the whole problem...
I said, go ahead.
Well, and so our whole problem is we don't respect the rules that establish this nation. That's the reason we're free is because of what we were doing then. We've been riding on the gas of that, and now we burned out all the fumes. There's nothing left. We've got a pile of debt. We need to just turn our treasury back on. Get rid of the odious debt. Cancel it. And return the land and the assets that are being held by these global bankers, these giant families, these 13 families. It's all done through fraud. It's fruit of the poison tree. Return the land to the places where they took it from.
This last election was a complete steal. Because of that, all debts incurred by the Biden administration are odious debt.
Well, and the debt even up and before that, because here's the thing. When you look at the way God says, be just in your weights and measures, what is money? It's the representation of labor spent and a product produced.
Yes.
So on one side of the equation is the dollar. On the other side is a piece of corn or a shoe or a factory. Something had to get built. But when you've got people betting on the stock market, I bet this will go up or down. There's no fruit produced on the other side. So you get an equation that's out of whack. And the other thing is, remember, when corporations were first established in this country, you had a 20-year charter. If
Yes.
you weren't providing a service to the community, your charter was over. We didn't
Yes.
have these perpetual zombie companies that suck up everything in the world, that are bigger than governments now, and now want to rule the people like cattle. But
Yes.
again, this is partly our fault. You have to remember, no, and also remember who made you. You don't have to be a Christian to understand that no man created you. If your mama and daddy can't tell you what to do after the age of 20, why would a stranger? Why would why would you obey a stranger? Wear a mask, take a shot, do this, do that. What in the world are you doing? And for what purpose? And my point is, we're running away. We don't need to run. The Bible says stand, occupy until I return, stand in truth. Our problem is we just don't respect what is. We keep trying to solve this problem in the same system that gave us this mess.
Yes.
You can't fix it that way. You have to go back to what works. So that means as far as health care, if you really care about health, free vitamin C, vitamin D, cod liver oil, and iodine at the store. If you want to do welfare, I'm saying it's a free rice and beans. You'll never go hungry. Your pellet may get bored, but you won't starve. You won't get fat. And see, so what I'm saying is there's ways to, if you want to do charity, okay, but it's not reach in the pocket, keep filling up the kitty, and then they empty the kitty out. It's the last $1 trillion, $900 billion. 90% of it went to other countries for the COVID relief. And we have to start paying attention.
Yeah, Lauren, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for station identification. More phone calls when we come back from these words from our sponsors. And welcome back to our program here, hour number 2. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to go to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. I appreciate Lauren's, I think she's from Ohio, her passion.
Yes.
She said we have a Second Amendment. Well, we also have corrupt courts.
Yes.
And we also might be getting a PAC Supreme Court. So that Second Amendment will be meaningless, irrelevant. So, I think it's going to take more protests like the one that happened January 6th in order to protect our gun rights. Mike, on the silver issue, we haven't really seen much of a jump in the spot price. What we have seen is a big jump in the premiums for the retail stacker. So I'm not really impressed with this, this short squeeze on silver. I was watching a channel last night, an excellent, informative channel, highly recommended. Maneko 64, guy out of London. He had Bill Murphy on last night from GATA, and Bill Murphy said if this doesn't go up to past 30 in the 40s, he'll be disappointed. And I think it was up to about 30. Now it's down to about the low 29.
Okay, yeah.
So I was checking APMEX, and their premiums on the Silver Eagles, the 21 Silver Eagles, have shot up. I mean, if you look at the regular BU, it's gone to about, if you buy 100, it's gone to about it's about a $13 premium. So they're going for $42 an ounce. So it's the retail consumer that's getting nailed. Obviously, the physical demand has skyrocketed.
Yes.
But lastly, on the actually, my 2 more points. The CDC you mentioned is ordering people to wear 2 face masks.
Yes.
Who elected the CDC? How are they able to make put through such an order? Isn't that an elected body has to do that?
Well, yes, I would think so, but I guess they're relying on their regulatory authority. But they are a private corporation; they're not really a part of the government. Right. You're right; they're unelected, and I'm sure they're going to say, "Well, it's just advice," except for that part about where you can be arrested if you're not wearing 2 masks. That, to me, is throwing a lot of weight around that they may not be entitled to.
Yeah, this whole COVID thing, I mean, I'm hearing, I'm seeing, mixed messages. I'm seeing Fauci, there was a story that said Fauci said the decline in cases is not related to the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw another story below that story saying we're seeing a rise in cases.
Okay. I mean, since day one, the big problem has been,
looking at this thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you've got various political interests that are trying to run the numbers up for political gain. You have other people trying to run the numbers down for whatever agenda they're serving. And the fact is that we're not really getting reliable, factual information with which to make a good decision on how we're going to proceed.
No. I mean, it brings to mind that quote from Churchill during World War II where he said, this isn't the end, it's not even the beginning of the end, it's the end of the beginning. I mean,
yes.
This could go on for years. I mean, these mutant strain of a strain of a strain. I said this last year. I don't think they're going to let go of this for the next 5 years. At least
no, they're not. It's a cash cow for the vaccine companies.
Absolutely. And then lastly, Mike, the idea of defunding the police is actually starting to become quite attractive and appealing to me. I mean, every other day I read a story about the police, infringing upon people's rights, warrantless home invasions, civil forfeiture, what happened in Charlottesville. You know what? By all means, defund the police. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, every place the police have been defunded, crime only gets worse. Sometimes I wish we could go back to the town sheriff, just he and his deputies would keep the town taken care of. All right, we're going to go to Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I was listening to your comments earlier today about short selling. I've been fortunate to be in the market for a long time, and I got a nice portfolio. And now that I'm retired, I check into the Wells Fargo website 2 or 3 times a day just for tracking. The one thing I've never done is I've never invested in what I consider to be volatile stocks that might be subject to short selling. My strategy when I talk with my advisor is always to go long and hold on to it.
Yes,
and it's worked out very well for me. What's going on now? I'm happy as hell to see these hedge fund idiots taking up the shorts. I mean, they really deserve it. But the retail buyers here, in this case, are really on a precarious position long term.
Yes.
Because they can't hold that stock forever. Eventually, they're going to have to sell. And when they start selling, what you're going to see is a rapid collapse of a lot of these stock prices, like Nokia, for example.
Yes.
And GameStop. It's going to be brutal because now the hedge funds are going to take it out. They are going to go for blood when that happens. Now,
well, isn't there a time limit on a short sale? It's not like they can hold that short position for an infinite amount of time. I mean, all the Robinhood traders have to do is wait until that option expires on the hedge funds. Then they can sell perhaps in a slow, gentle tier to minimize the impact. But those hedge funds, that's why they're having to cover their shorts now, is because they can't just sit and wait for the stock to go down.
Well, they're desperate, though. You see, they've lost $70 billion.
Yes, they have.
And they're gonna go for blood the first chance they get. Now, you watch this as well. Those SOBs are right in the White House right now talking to Joe Biden, getting him to do whatever he can to bail them out.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration, I guarantee you, will do something to hamstring the retail investor.
Yes.
He's going to bow down and kiss the rear end of the hedge funds at the expense of the retail investor.
Yes, absolutely.
Long term, the average guy is really at a disadvantage in the stock market.
Yes.
As I look at this now, and I've been really enjoying this. And so I went back into my library and I pulled from my bookshelf the autobiography of Huey Long, Every Man a King. Started reading it again. And I thought, where in the hell is Huey Long when you need him?
Yes.
I was very skeptical of Long for a long time. But as I've watched this over time, I realized that someone who was as reviled as he was by the Democratic Party. He scared the hell out of Roosevelt and others with this share the wealth program. I remember talking with people who were around back then in the 30s, back when I was in college in the 70s, and they told me how much they really admired Huey Long. And I think if you had somebody like Huey Long step up now, a reincarnation of Huey Long,
yeah,
the Democrat Party and the elites would just come unglued. You know, he was a true populist.
Yes.
And what they can't stand, they can't stand a populist. They want somebody to be able to lie, to tell sweet lies to people, so that they can continue to cash in and screw the little guy.
No, this day trading thing, the online trading for the small private investor, most of them lose money. It's just like Las Vegas. It's set up so that the advantage goes to, the big boys. People, that's why they're always advertising to get download the app, whatever, because they've got so many people who are quitting. And again, they're not there to make you money. They're there to make themselves money.
Well, day trading is a very risky business.
Yes, it is.
I don't know really anybody who's made money on that. My son-in-law tried that for a while after he and my daughter were first married. He lost money. He wanted me to lend him some money. So he go ahead and day trade. I said, you're out of your mind. You don't have what it takes to be able to compete with these sharks out there.
Yes.
And so people get the idea that they're going to get rich quick day trading, and that's really the day trading strategy. I'm going to get a quick hit, and I'll hold my money and I'll do something else. But ask yourself, how many day traders do you know who are really successful at that? Most of them, if they're lucky, they'll break even.
Yes.
Most actually lose money.
Yes.
It's like horse racing.
Yes.
only riskier.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
Okay, Mike. Thanks for taking the call.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to go to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What is on your mind?
Mike, two things. One, you mentioned about this gun thing. What
yes.
Is this, a bill they're trying to propose in Congress?
Yeah, it's a House bill.
I don't know if this is, there's a lot of red state Democrats in there that is in the House, even more probably than the Senate. There's some in the Senate also. And the House is very closely, I think there's like a 4 or 5 difference right now in the House. So hopefully this won't pass. And again, the Senate is equal except for Harris, but there's also some red state Democrats there. But the thing is this, I think the red states in this country have got to make it clear, you push anything like this, we will ignore it. If you try to enforce it, we'll fight. So it's on, okay?
Yeah.
A sheriff can deputize every member of his county, every citizen of his county if he has to.
Okay.
That's one great thing about a sheriff. And that's the first line of the militia. Okay, if they push it to that point, it's hard for me to believe they would. And again, it probably would be kicked out by the courts, probably before it even got to the Supreme Court. But then again, you never know. And if the Democrats try to attack the Supreme Court, that's another reason that the red states have to say no.
Yeah.
And I think towards there's going to be some secession. Texas seems to be very close to it right now. But Texas is no
put it on the
bargain.
ballot. Apparently, Arizona is looking at it very closely.
Arizona is also, wow.
Yeah.
Even though it's got two Democratic senators now, Arizona. Yep. So, it's really getting bad out there. It's really getting bad out there, Mike. The other thing is this double mask thing. Where are they saying that they want you? It's a regulation to double mask. CDC?
When you're traveling, when you're at the waiting area at an airport or a bus stop, when you are boarding the aircraft, train, or bus, and basically just when you're sitting in your seat, they want you to be double masked. And as far as I can say, this is just a way of doubling the profits of everybody who invested in the face mask companies.
Well, it's more than that. This is harassment, and I don't know what they want to do. They really want to push. People are getting wiser and wiser to these masks already too.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them said that the CDC do they have that kind of power over transportation? They really, as far as I know, they don't.
They're not supposed to, but apparently they are.
And the airplanes,
at least they're acting like it.
And the airliners are going along with that. Huh?
Yep.
This is what I'm. It's this country better wake up, Mike.
Yep.
This country better wake up. I mean, these people are autocrats. They're tyrannical, and instead of the land of the free, now we're back basically the Soviet Union. We're far worse. Russia has far more. I know they had some kind of a demonstration here in Russia yesterday. I don't know what it was over, but as far as I can tell, they're far more free in Russia than they are in the United States. Than we are in the United States. We're actually getting the pretty much the model of China. At least the Chinese economy is booming. We're not even doing that.
Yep.
I mean, this country is going. You know what? It's going to SHIT, and Who proposed this gun bill, by the way? Do you know who?
Let's see. It is House Resolution 127. It's called the Sabika Sheikh Firearms Licensing and Registration Act. So I would presume that somebody named Sabika Sheikh authored it initially.
All right. Well, let's hope. Let's hope this ends. Well, this doesn't get anywhere close to passing. And I think, like I said, I think if it passes, you're going to have red states starting to walk. You said there's something already taking place in Arizona. I wish Texas would get rid of Abbott and put somebody like a Colonel West as their governor. You're going to, especially if they're going to go for independence, because Abbott is a moron. He's one of these people. He pushes these masks. He's still got Texas, I think, on partial lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad news. The people right under Abbott are very good. His Attorney General, I forget his name, Paxton, I think his name is, and I think the Lieutenant Governor is very good. But Abbott is a moron. He's I don't know whether he's being compromised or what. South Dakota, I really love. I love what's her name, Nikki
Haley.
Nikki, no, it's not Nikki Haley. Please, I'm talking about the governor of South Dakota.
Okay.
Christie, something or other. No, Christie Noem.
Okay.
Yeah, I love him. He's great, And I like what's his name, Governor DeSantis there in Florida too.
Yes.
Right. He's very good. No mask mandate in Florida, So we'll see what happens. My opinion is, if we have a country by 2024, DeSantis is very likely to be the president. Okay, but that's again if we have a country left by then. And again, the red states have to make it clear we will not go with if you do anything like that with guns, or if you try to force vaccines on people, or whatever else you try, we're not only cooperating.
Yep.
We will, the red states will have their own armies to stop the feds from coming in, and that would give them only one choice. Since the FBI and the ATF is not strong enough by any means to take on states, let alone the people, they'd have to call in the military. And my opinion is most of the military will be on the side of the people. They will not fire any American people. Some will. Some would.
Yeah, some will.
Not only are you going to see an out-and-out civil war, but you're going to see a civil war within the military. I think we're close to that already in the military. So
I would agree.
The other day that Mike Flynn's brother was made a four-star general in charge of Pacific forces in the Pacific, and Flynn is hated by the deep state.
Yes.
That tells me and I'm sure his brother is very amicable to him, okay, very similar to him in his thinking. So that tells me that this was done despite what the Joint Chiefs wanted, and it tells me there is already a big divide within the military of, real patriots, like a guy like Mike Flynn and his brother, and traitors, like the type of people in Joint Chiefs. Mostly, you don't get to most people who get to the Joint Chiefs staff. They don't get it by being good soldiers. They get it by putting their heads up, where. I remember that too when I was in the Army. Most generals, for that matter, don't get. But there are some good generals, like Mike Flynn was a good general.
Yeah.
His brother was pretty too. He was the head of the 82nd Airborne. They're not going to put an idiot in charge of the 82nd Airborne. They'll put a real general in charge of a division like that. So a hardcore, real. So we'll see what happens, Mike. But I'm very concerned. Where we're going. By the way, I just want to ask you one more question.
Real quick, because we're almost out of time.
I was going to buy silver. Should I buy it from a local dealer or online?
I would go from a local dealer unless you've done business with the online store before and know they're reliable. There's a lot of fake silver and fake gold out there. Mark, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more phone calls after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat here. And I just was reminded from our control room that we have a metals dealer associated with Republic Broadcasting, and you can call or text him. His name is Jeffrey Bennett, and his phone number, text number is area code 602-799-8214. And, of course, it also helps RBN if you buy your precious metals through him. And one more time, that number is area code 602-799-8214. All right, we're going to go back to the phones to Dan in Washington. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
The minimum wage, I got hung up on by Chris Hankley because I brought up the minimum wage. But look, have you ever worked for minimum wage, Mike?
I think I did back when I was like in high school.
Yeah, me too. I think it was about 1986 or something. I think it was about $4 an hour.
I really don't remember. It was something like that. But when I was in high school, it was like in the, the late 60s.
Right.
Yeah, I am that old.
And well, and it made me think, when I started smoking, I could buy a pack of cigarettes for $1.
Yeah.
And I just did a little research. You could buy a new Toyota Corolla. That's kind of a good gauge. Cigarettes, they put a bunch of taxes on and stuff, but for about $6,000-$7,000. So.
Oh, I paid $100 for my first car. It was a Volkswagen Beetle. I loved that car.
Right. Okay. So there's this thing called inflation. Like last time I called, this caller from California says, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never run a business, but there's this thing called inflation. So
yes.
That's why you have to raise the minimum wage. Like you were talking to the guy from Canada, talking about the central banks printing money.
Yes. Yep.
So when they do all that, it's caused inflation. So it's hard to believe, but that $4 an hour that I used to make washing dishes is probably about $15 an hour right now.
Okay.
As far as what it buys you, you can say 12 to. I actually looked it up. One site said $17 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But so I mean, it's been raised several times in my lifetime, in your lifetime, in good times and bad times.
Okay.
So these people that say that when you raise the minimum wage, you lose all these jobs they're just false, and sometimes you don't mind losing some jobs. Like, you don't have a right to have a little slave boy living in the shed in your backyard or whatever.
Yes.
Or you can't be paying homeless people. I could start a business paying $2 an hour to homeless people and have them collect tin cans all day, and then I can say, well, if you raise the minimum wage, I'll go out of business. Well, I would say that caller from California, try McDonald's or Burger King, or something more legitimate. I don't know what industry he's in, but I just thought I'd bring that up. I mean, this whole, when you argue against raising the minimum wage, and it's interesting, if you look at the states, some of them don't even have a minimum wage, like Alabama. They're all the ex-slave states, right? So it kind of shows you the mentality of the people who fight against that minimum wage, because they want a slave economy. So I was trying to tell that to Chris Hinckley, because he lives in Idaho, which is a very, very poor state. It's got a lot of wealthy farmers, but if you look at the processing plants or anything like that, it's pretty much full of migrant workers or Mexicans, because they don't want to pay any money in Idaho. So, I think the minimum wage in Idaho is like $7 an hour still.
Yeah.
Which, pretty low. So, and I don't know who these people are that think, I would ask them, what's the minimum you would pay someone, like the 80-year-old lady at Walmart greeter, you could say she's not worth it, but does she not have a right to pay her bills and buy food, even if you take that job? So it's the justice aspect of it, but also, the Cloward and Piven strategy. If you don't pay people to work, don't whine about socialism. So, if you're not going to pay people to where they can work and make money and feel good about life, then don't be surprised when you get like a communist revolution.
Yes.
Would you agree? I mean, Hitler, in Mein Kampf, he wrote about that. He wrote.
Yes, he did. All right, Dan, I'm going to have to let you go. We've got to take another commercial break here, and we got more callers waiting on the line. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go back to the phones to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael. Good day to you. What's on my mind? The guy in California. You got to support your local sheriff.
Yes.
That's all I can say. To support your local sheriff, and if he's coming to Florida, he might want to look at a place called Old Town, Florida. Pretty good.
Okay.
Sheriff over there is pretty tough. Got a lot of sheriffs in Florida that don't play, so support them, because they will make sure you keep your Second Amendment. You can go to Dixie County, good place to buy a home over there in Dixie. Nice area. You got a lot of great places in the central part of Florida that are excellent. And as you well know, Mike, the Titusville area is booming because of the Space Center. They're getting ready to send a moon rocket. They're going to send a mission to the moon, and they're also going to Mars. So the Kennedy Space Center is hopping. That land up there is going off the charts. It is. Here in South Florida, we're going off the charts because now we got all these imbeciles, high-tech companies coming here. It's been all over the news for the last week. It's insanity what's going on. The houses are going nuts here. Everything's going insane here in Florida. The gas price went up. I noticed since Biden's gotten there, it's already up 28 cents a gallon, regular. And I noticed that and it's going to go way higher. And like you're seeing, silver going to go probably up off the chain, and gold and all, platinum and all that. It's going to go up. It's going to go nuts. But that's what you got when you got a buffoonery administration when we got right now. But as far as Trump, when he came to Florida, moved to Florida, Florida's is hot as heck. I can tell you that, man. The house has gone. The home I'm in, it's gone. Everything's gone up.
Yes.
It's crazy. It really, especially here in Florida. And, if Joe wanted to come to either Florida or Texas, that's probably his best destinations. Here in some place in Florida, you can go outside and shoot your rifle on. If you have 10 acres, you can go outside and shoot your guns off. There's a lot of places here in Florida you can shoot a gun if you have 10 acres of property.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like Eastern Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee, when you die, you can be buried on your own property over there.
Yes.
We don't have nothing like that in Florida anymore. But in Tennessee, you actually can your family, because there's so many generations of family there, that they can actually be buried on their own property. They have cemeteries on their own land, because I have a lot of friends. I have a few,
There were actually some of the older homesteads on Oahu that had their own cemeteries on the premises, and I was kind of sad to look at. There was this one up on the windward side where, you know, one of them had obviously died at a very, very young age, and, you know, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, it's generational. They keep it, the land stays in the family, basically, especially up in Tennessee. When that land never gets probably deeded out to another family, and everybody dies in the whole family or something. But anyway, Mike, here's what I want to talk about. And getting back to the last caller, talking about jobs. I just got to tell Dan something. Dan, the best thing you can do is try to get a job at for the county government or the federal government. Get a county or federal government job, man. They got great benefits. That's why a lot of these illegals are coming in here, Mike. Don't kid yourself. They want to get. They don't want to be migrant workers all their lives. They want to get their kids educated to go and compete for lawyers and doctors and get these county jobs, firefighters.
Can't fault them for that. Can't fault them for that.
No, and Mike, I know guys in the solid waste department making $120,000 a year this year. They're getting overtime. It's insane. And what you were talking about earlier about the mask, I told you have a big thing about. It's about like 10 miles from where I'm at. It's called Mile Trash Wall, but they have a barrier around. They have, like a wall. But, like you say, I have a buddy who works over there. He says there's millions of masks. They just dump the mask right over there. Birds are flying over. I mean, there's food's mixed in. Everything's mixed in with all this nonsense. This whole thing has been a lie. Hey, Mike, ask everybody in your audience. I want everybody in your audience to hear this, Mike. What happened in 1968 when this Hong Kong flu hit? Why wasn't there a vaccine made then? All this time, why wasn't everybody locked down in their houses? Why wasn't there everybody wearing masks in 1968? We had the same. It was the same thing. H1N1, H1. Nothing much difference. These Chinese have been doing this for 60, 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
These viruses trying to knock their populations down. Then you got that scumbag Gates wants to kill us all off. And then Mike, I got to tell you, this is the reason I really called your show. But before I do that, I'll tell you, really, I want to call your show. I'll get off quick. But here's my. Talking about George Soros, this guy, he's never been arrested. The FBI never arrested him, but they want to go arrest all these people in the Capitol. They had a panty raid.
Yeah.
And this guy's burning up cities, doing billions of dollars of damage. You got 3 black communist women are going to be getting Nobel Peace Prize. Are you serious? They're going to get a Nobel Peace Prize, 3 of them. But here's the reason I really called your show. And I had to listen to Ralph last night, and I called the show because he did something awesome. Mike, did you ever hear Paul Harvey give the story about the founding fathers, what they had to endure? None of those guys that signed the Declaration of Independence they basically all ended up poor. All of them, except maybe a few of them. Most of them either died. Some of them got hung. Some of them guys got caught. Their family, they tortured their families.
Yeah,
what the founding fathers went through in this country.
Yeah,
in their homes, beautiful homes. They know most of these guys signed the Declaration of Independence are wealthy. Okay, Mike, and they lost it all. They lost they lost loved ones. They lost their material goods. They lost their sanity. Some of them went crazy. They actually put them in what do you call back in the day what they had sanitariums, whatever. I mean, Mike, and now we got these buffoons running our government. And Mike, like you've been saying, and I've been listening to your show a long time, you don't hear too many guys calling in now how bad Biden's been. For 34 years, it's all been orange man, bad man, orange man.
Yeah, we've been hearing that.
And here in the meanwhile, we're getting invaded. And a couple of guys used to call your show all the time. They haven't called in months. Now, I don't hear them say say something good about Biden. I want to hear them call and say something good about Biden or something bad. Either. By the way, I hope Kevin from West Virginia finally calls in. We haven't heard from him for a while. Kevin needs to call in. He's a really good caller. But listen, Mike, here's what I really want to get to. Yeah, the founding fathers sacrificed everything, and they got basically nothing in return except the freedom and liberty, the liberty of this country. So, and that's what it's all about, Mike. It's not about profit. It's about your liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's like in the movie Braveheart. It's about freedom. And, we're losing it, Mike. We've lost it, basically. Unless we do have an uprising and we say enough is enough. We got this buffoon Biden wants to crush our country, our energy sector. I mean, this guy is insane. This bumbling imbecile. The guy has no look. You remember Trump? The first 3 weeks he was president in 2016, they made him take all kinds of medical tests to make sure he was competent. to sit in office? You remember that?
Yeah. I remember that.
Well, they don't do that for. How come they're not doing it for this idiot? How come this is still?
I don't know.
Mike, he's not my. I don't consider Biden a president. I consider him an occupant, like the one caller said yesterday. He's not a president. He's the occupant of the office. He's not a president.
It's fraudulent.
And getting he's an occupant. And Mike, and to a lot of these guys that are trying to come into Florida, we don't want their liberalism. Just like in Texas and Kelly, he don't want all these liberal freaks coming into Texas. We don't need it. We need to keep these states what they are, or better than what they are. And we need, Mike, I guess I've been telling you for years, 3 years over. This immigration invasion is going to totally wipe this country out in 5 years. It's over. Guaranteed it's over. Because these people are all going to want the free handouts. They don't give a darn about our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. They could care less. All they thinking about, mucho dinero, dinero, money, money, money. And it's all about money, Mike. I can tell you it's all about the money. We'll look at these schmucks on Wall Street making all this filthy money. Look at Hollywood. That guy Rob Reiner, that scumbag. That guy's going around saying all this filthy, nasty. That guy's always been filth.
Yes.
You got Vlada Streisand. You got you got these filthy creatures in the Congress like Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, and it's just unbelievable, man. But there are some good ones there. I mean, you got Levin. You got some good ones out there. A lot of these. Look, Mike. Like I told your show. I told you a year ago, Mike. No matter what Donald Trump did, he could give each one of them $1 million in a briefcase. Probably 50-60% of minimum will vote for the Democrat. The same with the other group. Trump, no matter what Trump couldn't even get 20% of the Jew vote, Mike. Not even 20%. I think that's what he got, maybe. Maybe he got 20. He ain't getting over 25%. No Republican. I don't care what president who runs for the Republican Party will ever get 25% of that vote unless there's I don't know what it would take for that to happen. But they're not gonna see the light because Mike, it's kibbutz. It's communism. They're not going to see the light, no matter what. I mean, I'm happy that Trump got 20% of them, but Mike, I just don't. I don't see him ever. I don't see the Republicans ever grabbing more. Maybe they'll get 22, 23%.
Well, again, you're acting like the elections are legitimate and honest, and they're just simply not. I mean, from now on, the results of the elections are going to be whatever the deep state dictates them to be. And it's impossible to come to any conclusion about what the American people really want or are really voting for because of that ugly reality.
Well, yes, but Mike, I was looking at the Matt Sludge report today.
Yeah,
I have to look at him because this guy's like the biggest backstabber in print media, whatever.
Agreed.
On computer. Yes, and so this guy's saying, well, Biden got a worse approval rating at this time than Trump did, but he's doing better than Trump because why, Mike? Why is Biden having such a great approval rating? According to the Drudge report, is because white women and independents think he's doing a great job. That Biden's doing a great job. White women and independents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, if they rig the election, they're rigging the approval poll numbers as well. I mean, that just makes common sense.
Well, exactly. But, we'll see how this is going to turn out, Mike. One guy was talking about Michael Flynn's brother and all that in the military. I just don't know. I'm like, no, man, you're just going to have to probably wait it out till 2022 and see what happens in that election. But the damage.
Well, I don't know. If we don't take sledgehammers for those electronic voting machines, we might as well just stay home.
Well, there you go, Mike. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, if they don't fix that, it's never going to be resolved. It's just going to be one cabal after another. I mean, Hollywood's a disgrace. The filth that they put out in Hollywood. And, Mike, I was thinking, I'll let you go, but Mel Gibson made some good movies. Like he made a bunch of good. Well, he made a couple of great war movies, and he made Passion of the Christ. And I remember they were attacking him and attacking him.
Yes.
Yeah, Mel Gibson. Yeah, and Mel was making these movies, and I remember they set him up because he was drinking or something. He got put in a cop car, and he called the cops some names and all that. And they literally tried to crush him. And that was during the making of the movie. What was the movie he made, Mike? With I can't think of it. With Jaguar. He made it was a silent movie. oh gosh, I can't think of the movie. Where they're in Mexico. He makes it like what was his name? Apocalypto.
Yeah, Apocalypto. Yeah, that was not silent though.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of talk in there.
Well, there was a lot of talking. There was in Mayan.
Yeah, right. Well, it was Mayan. Okay, right.
Okay.
And that was a great movie. But during the time he was making that movie, they were attacking him. They were literally trying to crush him in Hollywood.
Yes, they were.
We know who. I don't have to mention it. You know who.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Been there, done that. Didn't buy the T-shirt.
Yes. Well, he completed the movie, and I thought it was really good. It's like what we're up against, Mike. I guess we're up against a lot of witchcraft, man. That's all I can say. There's a lot of witches out there. A lot of evil, man. A lot of evil in this world.
Tom,
we got to crush it, Mike.
Yeah, I know we do, but I got to let you go because we got a bunch of callers waiting on the line, and we're getting close to the end of the show. So we're going to switch over to Cody in Illinois. Cody, thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind today?
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. When we talk about gun control, we really need to get in our minds and share it with people that are not into guns that Second Amendment is a right, and we shouldn't even accept sales tax or any kind of tax on it. Are we going to accept tax on our speech? If they say, hey, you got to pay a yearly tax if you want to be able to go protest in public, whatever it would be. Are we going to accept that?
It wouldn't surprise me if they tried that.
Well, there's an old story of a philosopher talking to a king, and he said, how come you've got so much security if you're doing right by your people? And now we see in D.C. that they're awful worried about security in D.C. being a bunch of tyrants over there. So obviously they've got plans to do a lot worse, or
Yep.
It's kind of scary because obviously they've got plans with these guns and all this. I mean, they're Matt Bracken talks. I'd encourage everybody to go pull up his YouTube. It's called The Modern Survivalist. He does a Sunday show with this Latin guy. I forget his name off. But Matt is very sharp. He brings up, something like, for example, in Venezuela, what happened? Well, they packed the Supreme Court. Well, that's exactly what they're talking about doing here.
Yes.
He said, they purged the military. I remember that they, gave guns to, the people that supported Chavez and Maduro and these guys. So don't kid yourselves. That's the game plan that they're doing right now. So we as patriots, we got to be figuring out what we're going to do here. It's an illegitimate election, like you said.
Yes.
That's pretty sad for the rest of the world too, which is a good reason why we should, be willing to fight, because we're supposed to be this beacon, and now people are looking to us saying, God, you guys can't even have fair elections.
No.
So, but one other thing I wanted to mention, we're supposed to be a common law country, and whenever you argue with somebody about the election being thrown, just let them know that the judges, they try to throw these cases out like they were frivolous. A jury is supposed to be the fact finder in our courts.
Yes.
And they didn't.
Yeah, that's
right?
the reality. None of the evidence has ever been allowed into a court of law, and the corporate media is still out there saying, well, they lost all the court cases, therefore there's nothing to the claims of election fraud. They haven't had their day in court, is the bottom line, and justice delayed is justice denied.
If you're not in front of a jury in a common law system, it's not a trial. You haven't been in court.
No.
And that's what people are forgetting. Was it John Morse? I couldn't believe this story he was telling. He said he knows a guy that's a lawyer that wrote a book on some subject of the law that this guy was supposedly an expert on, but didn't even know at the time that there's a difference between House reps and senators between the states and the federal Congress. I thought that's kind of hard to believe, but maybe that's a big problem we've got. People are so ignorant on our system that, it drives me nuts too. When they're interviewing an ex-president, they always say president or Mayor Giuliani. Well, he's not a mayor anymore. He's an ex-mayor.
No, he isn't.
They're always trying to call.
He isn't. Definitely not.
Trying to call these people.
All right, Cody. I'm sorry, but we're got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. I'm going to try and squeeze a couple more phone calls in at the end of the program. I don't know that I'm going to get to all of them.
It's pretty dang sad. Through the 90s, they were bringing in these special visa workers, giving them free dental, free housing, free trip money back to set foot across the line in Mexico every 6 months or something and come right back. And at the same time, Walmart is teaching their people, some of them, the managers would actually teach their people how to afford to work there so they could pay them, the minimum wage and go get all of these social programs. And then people just flock to Walmart and wonder where their local businesses went. There's the high cost of low price kind of jokes about that. If anybody's ever seen it, I got this T-shirt for $1.25, and like, how in the world did you do that? Because it came from slave labor. So it's kind of futile, all this talk about tearing down our Southern heritage statues. It didn't do nothing to get rid of slavery. Slavery's all over the world in more places now than it ever was.
Well, just look at that 1040 form.
Well, yeah. There's no limit on taxation from the 16th Amendment. All wars are bankers' wars.
They certainly are. Okay, Mike, I'm going to have to let you go. We're almost out of time. I'm going to take a phone call from another Mike, this one in Colorado. Hello, Mike. What's on your mind?
Hi. Well, Mike from Kentucky got me on the $1.25 minimum wage, which was $1 and 1.25 ounces of silver. And how much would that be worth today? But, I also wanted to give a shout out to Lauren in Ohio. I wanted to thank her for making me aware of Michael Plasma, I think it was called, and I left mine in contact information with your screener. If she wants to get in touch with me, I'd like to talk to her. I've been chasing and following her for years on Joyce's show.
Okay. Mike, are you still there? Okay, looks like we lost him. So let's go to James in Charlotte. Hello, James. What's on your mind today? Okay. James, are you there? Okay, we seem to have an issue. James in Charlotte, are you there?
No, we don't have him. I lost you. My computer froze up, but you're back now.
Okay, do we have Mike in Colorado?
No, he dropped.
He dropped. Okay, well, we're coming up on the end of the show then, so no more callers. Basically, I think we can all agree we're looking at a very dark time in our nation's history. We're certainly winning the Olympic gold medal for corruption, and we're seeing, really innocent Americans who have done nothing wrong. They are suffering, they're hurting. We know that this COVID-19 is being used to push various political agendas. And, the best thing that we can do right now is to look after each other, rebuild the community, rebuild the neighborhood. The whole goal of all this mask and separation is to teach us to be isolated and to accept that isolation. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to accept the isolation, and I hope that you will join me on that. Meanwhile, it has been kind of fun watching Robinhood and the GameStop stocks bring down those billionaires. I'm really enjoying that. There's the music. Time for me to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.